Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you know what that sound means. Time for In the Paddock F1. Greeny and the cheese. The 2024 F1 season is underway. 24 races, 1,446 laps to come. We start 263 miles as the crow flies from where we finish the season. But we start in the Kingdom of Bahrain, known as the Island of Pearls, for that pearl farming industry they got going on, and also known for the groves of date palm trees. You want some dates, Michael?
I like dates. I like date palms as well. They're a beautiful tree.
We're 11 miles. But wait a minute. This isn't no travel show. This is an F1 show. And we are 11 miles from the capital of Manama on an old camel farm. Yes, we raced the Bahrain International Circuit. 3.36 miles, 3 DRS zones, 15 corners. You give it the full beans for 75% of your lap. And, well, let's just be dead honest. We start the new campaign pretty much where we left off the last campaign. With full max domination, trust is in Adrian Newey. As Jeremy Clarkson said during Brundle's grid walk, trust in that man. A Red Bull 1-2 finish. Carlos rounds out the podium. We're caffeinated. We're medicated. Let's go. The season's underway.
Like Jeremy Clarkson said, who you got your money on? I got my money on Adrian Newey. Welcome to the post-Gunter Steiner era of Formula One. Away we go, as like you said, exactly where we left off with Max Verstappen and Red Bull complete domination. Ferrari playing second fiddle got lucky to end up third, fourth, in my opinion, as Mercedes had a little trouble as well. Lewis Hamilton coming back at the end there to take seventh. Didn't look great all day. And George Russell definitely had some issues all day there. So quite interesting for everyone else besides Red Bull. Red Bull just made it look easy. Sergio Perez took over there on lap 14 as he overtook George Russell coming out of the pits. And that was pretty much the race right there at that point. Shortly after that, Lewis Hamilton had some battery issues. If you didn't know about D-rate, which I still am not really sure what the heck was going on with the batteries and the issues, but a lot of battery issues going on across the board. Charles Leclerc did not look as he would like to look, and it looks like Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are going to hate each other's guts all season. Cheese, how do you feel about the first race of 2024?
Well, I got a couple takeaways here for you. You know, Red Bull, as expected, coming out of testing, they're the team to beat, and far and above the team to beat. Max is, I don't know, another dimension compared to everybody else right now. I mean, he's even way above. What he finished? 20-something seconds ahead of Sergio. So, I mean, he's far and away even better than his teammate. Ferrari's second fiddle. Leclerc struggled. Apparently, there's, from what he said, it was a brake issue. So, I mean, that can definitely affect your driving. Carlos, brilliant drive. Did they make the wrong move? Passing on Carlos so early. Couple other takeaways. Mercedes, overheating issues. The only Mercedes-powered car that didn't have an issue was McLaren. Williams was overheating. You could see it when they did the in-car cam. It was in bright red lettering on the steering wheel. Overheating. I
think it said car too hot. If I was driving that car and that thing came on your dash, car too hot, huge letters. That was crazy. You pull over immediately. And you just just press some buttons and ignore that. Let's ignore that.
Let's ignore that.
It was like exclamation points.
Exclamation points. But it looks like Mercedes has an overheating issue. I mean, George Russell had it. He faded way off at the end. Looks like he was even having more deg issues than his teammate Lewis was. I mean, Lewis didn't seem happy with the car. Period. The entire race. It looks like Mercedes might have some issues. McLaren looked all right. I mean, but in reality, if you think about it, the top 5 teams were pretty much almost as expected coming out of testing. And, teams now have, some extra issues to try and fix before they even try to mount a challenge with Red Bull, which is, far and above everybody else. Maybe not on quali day, but race day, where they hand out the awards and the points. That's when they show up. That was my pretty much takeaways from the race.
Yeah, absolutely putrid performance again by Haas. You talk about the back end of the race. Obviously, as we said, the front end, top 5 teams, only teams to score points. That will change. It felt very like 2018 out there today.
Yeah.
But that will change.
It's the first race.
It's the first race. Everyone kind of stacked up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The Alpine is trash. The Alpine is absolute trash. So that's a takeaway.
And I'm sure we'll get to that later as well. And yeah, honestly, seeing Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, I think that was a 4th consecutive race dating back to last year that they were both starting 1-2. But not finishing 1-2. So, everything Charles Leclerc, and that would be my concern. Hey, all those lockups were very concerning for Charles's car.
Well, he said there was a brake issue and the car was pulling when he was hitting the brakes. So, that's definitely you're not gonna be as confident to race with anybody if you don't have confidence in your brakes. It seemed to, I don't know, something seemed to be better near the end of the race, or George Russell was just running that slow at the end of the race.
Yeah.
For him to close up. And then once he passed George Russell, he toasted him from that point on, too. So Mercedes has some issues to really look into, to be that honest. The Ferraris had one Ferrari had an issue, and they were still far and above better than anybody else. So they looked to be probably the second best team, as we had probably pretty much predicted coming out of testing. And then it was going to be the fight between McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston from that point. Yeah, Aston didn't have a bad day getting both cars in the points either. So
no, but not at all. Lance
my
Stroll
take,
just tried to blow it from the first turn 1. He tried to blow it. Turn 1. Came back. I thought he was done. I thought
he was hit.
Aston Martin was done.
He was hit by your boy there, Hulkenberg.
At the back. That's what happens.
That's what happens.
That's what happens when you're driving with Haas. When you're in the back with Haas to start, and this is why you need to qualify and get to Q3. If you're a top 5 team, you should be getting into Q3, so you're not in the situation, not that a Haas didn't get to Q3 in the rare instance, as happened this weekend, but at the same time, if you end up in the back of the pack, you end up with worse drivers and worse cars and a worse situation. It's not just the fact of the clean air in the front. Yeah. It's not just the fact of the ability of the drivers. It is the ability of the drivers in the front versus those in the back. There's a reason some drivers drive for Alpine and Stake and Haas, and other drives for Mercedes and Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bull. There's a reason. It's not by accident. So when you end up with the goons in the back, that's sometimes what happens. But yeah, Williams overheating, that was crazy seeing that inside the car.
It's the Mercedes power plant. The only one that didn't seem to have any type of overheating issue was McLaren.
Yep.
But Williams and Mercedes themselves both had overheating issues.
Yeah. And what was up as, if those who watched the race, around lap 14, Hamilton said his battery's at 1%. Can you explain what the battery situation was for those who may not understand?
He overused it. That's just what happened. He didn't recharge the battery at all and just kept on using the battery, and he ran out of battery. Plain and simple. You got to monitor that. You got to be able to. You have to recharge your battery at some points, but he just kept on using it, and then you don't have any. And then you're losing a bunch of horsepower, then you're in a bit of trouble.
For those of us who look at our phones during lunch and it's at 10% battery and you're not really sure why, I guess that's kind of the closest you can get. What do you mean I'm at 10%? I got another 6 hours to go here. Like, no, you're at 10% battery. So I guess that's kind of the same feeling that Lewis Hamilton had But interesting day. Why do you think Lewis Hamilton was overusing the battery today?
Just trying to keep up, I guess, and try and make some moves there at the beginning of the race. I mean, it can happen if you're not monitoring it that closely, if you're just trying to push. But, eventually you got to let off and you have to recharge it. There's usually a good balance you try and have per lap on the amount of battery you want to use. But then you also want to have enough there if you need to attack. So,
yep.
It happens.
Absolutely. Final question before we move on to some more important things, mostly including Greedy Bucks, and see how that's going down from yesterday. Interesting. But after the first race, I know we have a humongous tons and tons of season. This is race 1. How are you feeling about Ferrari swapping Carlos Sainz for Lewis Hamilton after the first race?
I mean, it is what it is. It's the first race. Carlos is going to drive mad now. It's a big motivator when you're trying to get a job somewhere else. So he's going to put out his best performance.
Damn straight. Man's going to drive angry all season, and it should be an interesting one for Ferrari. After the first race, who do you think's going to finish ahead, Carlos or Charles this year in Ferrari? Who's going to have more points?
It's too early to tell.
Go out on a limb.
I'll probably say Charles in the end.
All right. That's fair. Third, fourth, once again.
You have car issues, it's definitely going to affect you, so.
2 Red Bulls on the podium. A Ferrari made the podium. That's, you know what? If you get a Ferrari on the podium every single race this year, if you get a Ferrari on the podium, say 20 out of 24 races, you'll be a happy man. That's for damn sure.
Oh, yes. You know what that sound means. It's time to take that fantasy ride to that fantasy island of Greentovia, where the beer flows like wine and the wine flows like beer. And the cannabis, oh yes, it grows as far as the eyes can see. Look at it out there. Look at it. Green and luscious. Take a little whiff. That air smells fantastic. As always, we take a little walk to the top of the hill, that casino at the top. Tickets in hand. Are we cashing in or are we checking out?
I do have to say, as we put the scores on the board for those watching on YouTube, the scoreboard is up. Those are the points, minimum points. First of all, weak bets, I think, by both of us. I bet 50 Greeny Bucks on 4 different placed 4 different bets. You bet 25 on 5 different bets. Yes, and obviously the payouts are going to be small if the bets are small. So let's recap what went down. I'll start with me, since I did win a tiny bit, and you lost like even smaller amounts. So it was basically, we're untouched here, as you can see on the screen. I went up 12 Greeny Bucks on winning 2 and losing 2. I had both Red Bulls finishing on the podium. Cha-ching. I had Sergio Perez finishing on the podium as well. Cha-ching for that, plus 100 and plus 125 respectively. I had Danny Rick finishing in the points. That did not happen. He made a great charge late, even though he was, still well out of it. So nice to see Danny Rick even that competitive still, because you never know year to year when you get to a certain age in Formula One. And the trifecta, which not many people had or saw coming, having Sergio Perez in second. Maybe we should respect Red Bull a little more after this week, because especially Vegas, because they did not have them 1-2. Neither did we. I had Charles Leclerc second, and that did not happen. Max Verstappen first. We know the minimum payout for that, so we didn't do that in negative 600. So I finished plus 12 Greeny Bucks, which is not a very impressive. You, sir, made 5 bets, maybe 1 bet too many, because you would have been up like 20 Greeny Bucks. You, sir, hit on 2 Aston Martins. That was close, right off the gate. As we mentioned, Lance Stroll almost went down, so you almost lost that one. And then you also hit Carlos Sainz finishing on the podium. Not the Ferrari you thought would be on the podium, but you got one of them, and plus 175 on that. and your trifecta missed as well because you had 2 Ferraris in the podium. You bet 2 Ferraris in the podium. That didn't happen. A little close. You were Sergio Perez crash out away from hitting that.
Yeah.
And Charles Leclerc didn't make the podium as well. So that beat the trifecta. And Oscar Piastri, he was hanging on there in 7th for a while during the race. I'm sure you were rooting for that, but then fell off late. Ended up finishing, I believe, 9th, 8th. I apologize, 8th as he I believe passed Alonso late. Not good enough. Not good enough. And you take a 6 greenie bug loss. So minimum, we're starting to feel out the season. It's kind of like very, like
the
you
odds
said yesterday,
were pretty much trash, to be honest,
odds
this weekend. Trash odds everywhere. So
Vegas was 100% preying
also,
on
the
the
first
Formula One
weekend.
gambling addicts. Vegas was preying on the Formula One gambling addicts to come out, throw crappy bets down, and lose. Cumulatively, we did win slightly, but again, when you have 8 or 9 negative point returns on the top 6 drivers, being out there, Vegas doesn't want you to win. So a little disappointing. Hopefully we get a little bit better odds as we go into the season, and the majority of people get a little less interested in Formula One betting. And get these suckers out of here. We don't want the suckers. We want the real gamblers here, so we can get some real odds. We'll get them better later in the season. And that's all I got to say about our gambling. So again, we're out the gate, very close. No big win, no big trifecta hit just yet. That'll start changing the game when one of us hits that trifecta, which will happen at some point, probably sooner than later. And then that's when we'll start really seeing some movement here and separation in the Greenie Bucks category. But so far, civil, which brings us to our next little segment, which we call
the news.
In the news.
Well, I really ain't got that much for you, since, just have one race so far. But there was a pretty big bombshell that did hit the other day. Christian Horner was cleared by Red Bull, but the real bombshell was the drive. The drive with all the documents was stolen and leaked. It was sent to all the brass of Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
All the team principals in Formula One. And most journalists in Formula One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those WhatsApp messages.
So he has been cleared by the team itself. But will Christian Horner finish the season in his current job?
I mean, I think we've been talking about this for several episodes now since it started. We had a special episode.
But all the info hadn't been spilled out to everybody and their mother.
What did I tell you? What do I tell you every single episode? The other shoe always drops. We've seen this for the last decade now with prosecutions. Whether it be criminal, whether it be civil, whether it be really about someone's work or the cancel culture of it, quote unquote. We see it all the time where allegations come out, things get hid, and some documents get leaked. There's no way. There's too many people involved for things not to get leaked eventually. Christian Horner does not want the season to be about him. He wants it to be about Max Verstappen and hopefully Sergio Perez as well. And it's going to be about him for a while. So this season is now about the Red Bull season is about Christian Horner, and as a CEO of a company, you do not want it to be about you.
Yeah.
You want it to be about your product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any thoughts of wisdom on that?
I mean, you're spot on. You're spot on. It's going to be they're going to be asking about him for the next weekend for sure. He's going to get asked that question in his press conference. There are going to be a lot of questions in that press conference. Once everybody's read up on everything, and it's going to be about him and not the team. And he's going to keep trying to push it, but it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop.
And if you look at sports universally, a lot of times a team won't bring in a certain player, especially on team, sports, whether it be football, whether it be whatever, basketball, whatever it might be. Even though that person might be exceptionally talented, the baggage that comes with them in the locker room makes it not worth it.
Yeah.
It happens all the time where this individual is very talented. Why don't they have a job? And it's because of the other distraction, because you do not want to make a team about an individual, especially an individual that's working, and not behind the scenes in this case, because he's an out front person, but you want to make it about your drivers. And it's not about your drivers when someone in the back. And that's why people lose their jobs, mostly, because it's a distraction. And I think Red Bull's going to be fine as far as on-track performance, but it is a distraction. But he's also the CEO of the team, which is a very different situation than a lot of other teams have, where you have someone that's that high up in the organization is also serving as a day-to-day within the organization like that. So it's a totally different situation, and we'll see. We'll see. Any moment, any time, this all could fall apart. And that's all I got to say about Christian Horner.
Well, and that's pretty much in the news.
Right there. So this is my least favorite part of the week, as everyone knows, because who knows what cheese has coming out of his melon here as we go on to put my helmet on and strap in and jump in the car, and we're going to take a lap around 3 sectors, Quizmaster's cockpit. I'm about to get all these questions wrong, as usual, so you've tuned in at the right time. Good thing this doesn't go against my Greenie Bucks, or I'd be in trouble. But this year we're going to have all the my total percentage win up on the screen here, so you can see how much I embarrass myself throughout the year, which further incentivizes Cheese to give me more difficult questions. But I will not digress any further and not waste any more time, as you got that shit-eating grin on your face and ready to embarrass me as usual. So without further ado, sir.
All right. Well, I actually think you're going to get all 3, to be honest. I went a little soft this week. Opening week, first quiz of the year. We'll make it easy on the kids.
Yeah, so. I'm not sure, but thanks for the confidence. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Question number 1, sir. How many times has F1 raced in Bahrain?
12?
No. 20, you fool. It's the 20th anniversary. They said it
20th anniversary.
Like 10 times during the broadcast.
Is it the 20th anniversary of Bahrain? They've been racing that long at Bahrain?
That long, yes. Since 2004, sir. So 20 years.
All right.
You were off to... That is putrid. That is absolutely putrid. Especially when they said it like a zillion times during the broadcast. 20th year. 20th anniversary of Bahrain. 20th anniversary of Bahrain. And you... Oh, my God. I go cupcake on you. You stink it up right off the bat. Oh...
Right,
well, then you're definitely getting this one wrong.
Since you
think they've only been here for 5 years. So, in what year did F1 begin racing under the lights in Bahrain? Look at
2012?
that dumbfounded look on. No. 2014.
It's close. Within half a decade.
Close only counts in horseshoes, my friend. Not in the cockpit. So you're 0 for 2 to start off.
Told you, there's no cupcakes in this.
Question 3. Please get this. Please. Who has the most F1 wins in Bahrain?
Probably Lewis Hamilton.
That is correct.
All right. I'll take Lewis Hamilton questions all day.
Can you say how many times he's done it? Let's see if you can think that one.
Top of my head, I'd say 6.
5, but that's close.
That's close. This isn't horseshoes, my friend.
Still,
thank you.
That's close, but still an absolutely poor performance. You should have aced this one. This should have been cake. Probably. Well, And I actually went into the next segment putting...
No, that was your mistake. That was your mistake. Don't put that on me.
I had put in faith. I put faith in my student, and he failed. So, as the creed...
Like betting on Lando Norris to win today. I mean, you have as much faith as you want, but...
Well, if you had that faith, you might have to go see a shrink or something, because I don't know what you're watching.
Oh, he can win. He's going to win this year.
It wasn't winning today.
He's going to win sometime this year. Anyway.
I don't know. All right, well, as the creed on this program, how you do in the cockpit, the creed is how we move on. And since you're a loser, that takes us into losers. And man, there was some losers this weekend. Alpine, that car is trash. Trash. Overweight. Piece of junk. They got a lot of work to do, or they might be dead. The Haas might actually end up being better than them if they don't get that straight. Enstone team is going to be working OT for quite a while to get that thing under control, because that thing was absolute trash. Valtteri Bottas, absolutely poor performance. Absolutely poor performance. Just, wow.
Didn't help he couldn't get the nuts off the tire there either.
No, it didn't help either, but he was already at the back the whole time, even before that happened. So, I mean, that just put icing on the cake for that mess. But that was just a poor performance. I'll stop there. I could go on. There's a bunch.
Yeah, there was a bunch, and I'm going to go right in and... I mean, Williams was a mess.
Yep,
Alex
that was
Albon,
a mess.
I would expect a lot more from Alex Albon this weekend. This guy is wanted to put himself in a position to even look at the Mercedes seat next year. You better do a lot better than this. Definitely not good at all from him. Definitely disappointing. Again, I'm going to go back to Mercedes. It was disappointing. You could see it in Toto Wolff's face. If you looked at Toto Wolff's face in that second half of the race, that man looked like he aged 10 years from this weekend alone. He was pissed as hell. That's not what they expected. That's not the performance they expected. The second Sergio Perez passed George Russell on lap 14, it was pretty much done from there. They couldn't do anything. Lewis Hamilton was racing from behind the whole race. They need to do something, and a place where Lewis Hamilton has dominated, as we just talked about, only a couple years ago. I think he won here in 21 he won last. Lewis Hamilton did. So you expect more, especially someone who's moving to a new car this year. So those are my losers. So that puts us into winners, sir. There were a bunch of those. Bunch of winners.
There's a bunch of those too. Yeah. Carlos Sainz, big winner. And he won me a bet. So way to go, Carlos. Driver of the day as well. But just a really good drive. Showed really good pace. For the second best car out there, but showed a lot of really good pace. Gonna go Zhou, 11th.
100%.
Really good drive in the Sauber. Lance Stroll, gets smacked by Hulkenberg on lap 1, all the way at the back of the field, and drives his way all the way up into the points, managing the tires well throughout the race. Really good drive for Lance Stroll to start the season off.
Yeah, I gotta go. I mean, Sergio Perez. He was not expected to come out and be big. I mean, the best the experts had him is third. Most people were looking at a Ferrari that was going to come in second, potentially one of the Mercedes drivers coming in second. That was also a pretty popular pick, but not against all odds. The man has the best car on the grid, but after last year's performance, seeing a second and seeing Sergio Perez being competitive, especially starting fifth and making those spots up and ending up on the podium where a lot of people didn't think he would end up today, got to give it up for Sergio Perez. And if it wasn't for Carlos Sainz's amazing performance, Guan Yu Zhou would have been driver of the day. And it's a lot coming from him, starting 17th, just to piggyback on that. Really, It really was. I'll give a little bit of cred to Danny Rick as always. Even though he stayed with it, he came on hard at the end. Where was that? With 20 laps to go instead of with 4 laps to go. But
he had some kind of issue early in the race with the car.
Yeah,
for a little bit. I think that
Everyone
kept him at the
had
back for a bit. Everybody. It's the first week,
except for Red Bull, of course.
Gremlins are going to. Well, they've never had a Gremlins. It looks like anymore.
Oh, of course. It'll come up. It'll come up. And those, sir, are my winners, which leaves us only with one thing.
I need to slap my goddamn for that.
You got someone? I got someone.
I got somebody. I'm going to give it to Visa Cash App RB. I mean, what the hell were they doing with that driver swap with like 3 laps to go? I mean, you're trying to pass Kevin Magnussen, for God's sakes. I mean, and you're gonna try and make that move, and then the driver doesn't do it once, so that's a mess. But doing it at that point in the race makes, really no sense. And then you do it, and then you lose a ton of time, and you don't even make the pass. I mean, that was a disastrous move. I mean, I'd like to be a fly on that wall for that race debrief, because I don't know what the heck was going on there. That was a disaster. And while you're doing it at that part of the track, I mean, that was a mess. And with 3 laps to go, do you really have to go for a driver swap to get 12th? I mean, you're not going for points here. It's 12th. So what the hell was that? I think the teams just slapped themselves. Get some sand for that, too, because that was a mess.
Get some
Still a little extra
sand.
sting in there.
Make it hurt. Listen, I got a slap, too, as well, because Logan Sargent, I don't know what he was doing when I guess he thought his car was breaking down, and then he pulls off, and the safety car was back, because that was one of the worst places on track to pull off.
You can pull
and
off.
He pulls off, and they're like, you can't stop there. So he's like, all right, and he just goes back on the track and starts driving like nothing happened. And the look on James Vowell's face after that happened, go back and free play. What lap was it? I don't know. It was early. It was probably like lap 8 or 9. The look on that man's face as he's finally starting to try to get something going with this Williams team. And the look on his face, because you think he broke down. You think there was a power problem, it looked like at first.
Right.
So the guy pulls off, again, in the worst part of the track. Don't stop there. All right, he just gets back on track and just starts driving. And you're expecting him to go in the pits at that point.
Yeah.
No. And he just runs the rest of the race in dead last, finishes dead last. At that point, I mean, it's almost like you pull the car at that point. He was like a minute behind, too. I don't know what they were thinking, what was going on. Some cars pitted, actually, at that point. I believe Haas pitted trying to, hopefully there would be a safety car or something later in the race, which didn't happen. I believe we didn't have any safety cars. We had no stoppages today, so that didn't happen. So all the cars that came in at that point early in the race didn't help at all. And, yeah, Logan Sargent messed with a lot of people's strategies as well doing that. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he just thought the car died and then didn't. But
I don't know. He's a mess. The team's a mess. The car's not very good. It's good in a straight line. That's about it. And then you got an overheating Gremlins too. So good luck with that.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a rough year for Williams. It's gonna be a rough year.
It is gonna be rough. Be rough for Williams. They're, as you said in the preview show, they're going to take a step back this year. I really don't want to believe it, but after watching today, they're going to take a step back. And Logan Sargent is probably not going to make it through the season.
I think he'll make it through the season, but he's not going to have a job next year.
I think his contract's up anyway. So, that's where we leave it. We'll be back soon. If not doing a show this week, if something breaks, we'll be on it. If not, we'll see you next Friday night again. We got a Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night. Yeah.
Friday night gambling special, and then in Saudi Arabia next Saturday. So check that out on YouTube. If you have not gone to YouTube, please jump on YouTube, subscribe. We still have that goal of 1,000 subs by, I don't know, summer, hopefully. We'll see. Greeny the
Way to
Cheese.
sound positive.
Go hit that subscribe button. Greeny the Cheese and the Paddock F1. We'll see you guys soon.
Peace.